You know, Father Sophroni was for 10 years my spiritual father. Even more, I would not say spiritual father is something. Father Sophroni was my friend. He knew that I came out of hell, and he knew poor Klaus needs a lot of love, and that's what he gave me. So, you know, I never had respect for Father Sophroni, but I had love, because he had love. And I think love is higher than respect, because even the dictators, you must respect them, otherwise they kill you, Stalin or whatever. But respect is not love. Love is much higher. And that was the relation I had also with Mother Teresa, with people, because I've learned to disrespect the gurus in India when they were after sex or after money or after power or these things. I've learned to despise them. So respect, no, but love, yes. If they don't have, goodbye. I don't want to see them. So again, as I will try to do a bit theology also in what I tell you now, I hope I can make it in 5 hours. Normally I speak 6 hours. We'll see. I was just, when I arrived here tonight, I saw there's this comic festival, and people were walking through the town, you know, disguised with masks. And when I saw that, I'd like to take pictures of them. It's nice, it's funny. But an idea came to my mind. I see so many Christians who are wearing a mask. In the name of Christianity, they wear masks. They must be good, there must be anything. They take on a Christian lifestyle, but they don't have Christ in their heart. And this is something God doesn't like very much. We can read in the Revelation, if you were hot or if you were cold, because you're lukewarm, I will spit you from my mouth. And when I discussed, I will have to preach tomorrow in another church, and the priest said not to be too personal with the parishioners, because they might shoot back. I will be personal. I am always personal, because nobody can kick me out because I'm not a priest. Priests must be careful sometimes. If what they say, I am like a clown sometimes. I'm a sort of priest in jeans, maybe sometimes. You can put it that way. Because I love the truth loves me. I accept the truth, and the truth is not always very funny. The truth is very. That's what Father Sophroni knew. Because when I wanted to become Orthodox, after I had met him, the first year when I went to Essex, that's a county northeast of London, I went to the monastery. He didn't accept me. I thought, what's that? Everybody wants me. As I have been baptized Roman Catholic, when I became known, my story became quickly spread in Europe. So all of a sudden the Catholics were very interested, because they need people with a good reputation to fill the churches in it, because the churches are empty more and more in Catholic Church now. I think they pay back, they get back what they were sowing with power, falsifying the truth. Now they get a result for it, and it will be the same with the Muslims, because where there's no truth, where there's no love, there's only a little bit truth or half truth. Catholics have a lot of truth, but they 15 points they did simply wrong. That's why the church is getting empty now, because people don't want to be manipulated or brainwashed. Like they say with the kids with 5 years, we are the only saving church. That's rubbish. It's not the only, but the Catholics in general believe that all the time. So I think, I forgot what I wanted to say.
The elder didn't receive you.
Yes, because Father Sophroni, they wanted me. The Protestants wanted me so much. They always look for witnesses for their cause. And when I saw Father Sophroni, I said, that man is a saint. That man is a love incarnate. I've been looking all my life in the gurus in India, all over in Thailand with the masters. I'm looking for such a person. Your heart knows immediately. He's the one. you've been looking for all your life. And he didn't want me. So what is that? So he said, go back, Klaus. And I came several times, but a year later, he sent me back again. I live in Switzerland. He sent me back again. I said, Father Sophroni, what is that? Why do you want me? You will understand, he said later. So after 3 years only, he accepted me. And I understand now why. And because, you know, the Protestants very often tell you, oh, you must convert today, you must give your life to Christ. Theoretically, it is right, but it's with pressure. And I think 70% of those who reconvert because they're fed up when they see how superficial it is or whatever. So he wanted to avoid it. And he said later, because I would not be responsible to have lured you into orthodoxy as the Protestants do. Because there will be a time when you will discover what orthodoxy really is. And it's not like in Protestantism, we are saved, we can do what we want, we are saved, and we are on a pink cloud. You will find sooner or later, and then you might say, you are guilty, Father Sophroni. And I don't want that. You must be responsible for yourself. From the beginning, the teaching of Father Sophroni was very different in everything. It's like he wanted to make adult people, not spiritual babies all their life. I think Protestantism is very often spiritual babies. So that was the reason. And I'll tell you later, if it's not too late, how we met, how I went on with Father Sophroni, how he was teaching me. Well, can you tell you that even now? His teaching mainly consisted in the greatest secret and the most simple thing. Because very often people ask me, why don't young people go to church? Why don't they come to church anymore? And so on and so on. And I understand why. Because when they are hit on the head with Bible verses, with theology, they know it's right, but it doesn't touch them. Father Sophroni, how did he go with me? As Christ became man, so that man can become Christ. Father Sophroni became Klaus, so that Klaus became Orthodox. How did he do that? Not with words, okay, with words also, but in the beginning, and I think this is so difficult for every one of us, it's so difficult. Bible says, consider the other higher than yourself. Have you met everybody who's doing that? Everybody thinks, I'm better than you, I can judge you. Who are you? I mean, I'm important. I know more than you. And exactly that kicks the people out. When we have this humility of Christ, Father Sophroni had this humility. Like I tried to convert Mother Teresa to Hinduism in the beginning. She had also wisdom. So she listened, but she reacted quickly. I'll tell you that later. So in the beginning, I wanted to, because I have such a lot of spiritual experience, I wanted to share that with Father Sophroni. You can believe Father Sophroni was sitting at my feet like I'm the master. He made me the master. And that created love. That created in me to trust him. That was love palpable in that moment. You could see he wouldn't teach me unless I'm ready to be taught something. Love. So that was, I think, the greatest secret, to become the other, even consider him higher. And that's something we must learn, because I think it is so important now in America, in Europe, in all countries where we have Orthodox people. When I'm on the Balkans, I will be in 2 weeks in Serbia on tour for 2 weeks, and in Bulgaria. In the Balkans, sometimes I say, I'm German. Okay, you see, Hitler invaded your country, the Balkans, and destroyed you. Now turn around. You Balkan people go to Germany and bring Orthodoxy to Germany. You vanquish them with your Orthodox faith. But when I'm in Germany or in Switzerland, I remember I've been in a Greek church in Hamburg in Germany. They looked at me like I was an invader. You know, no welcome, nothing. What do these Germans? It's our church? We are Greek? That was terrible for me. I felt so bad. When I was in Zurich, in Switzerland, in the Serbian church, The same happening. I thought these people, they go to church because they want to speak Serbian with their colleagues. They don't go for Christ. So we must be very careful, because we have the gold, we have the true teaching. But if it's not transported by love to the hearts of the other, but by discussions or something, it will not convince people. So please, you live here in Sacramento, and there are many people who are lost, who have lost their faith, lost everything. So we cannot allow, I think, to be silent. We must go and touch them with our love. Sometimes in the Holy Spirit we see we must be silent. In other moments we must speak. On my tour through United States since 13th of August, in the plane, in the train, wherever I go, I sell books in the restaurants because I cannot shut up. It works all the time. But with love, with love. And when I feel the other is not ready, respect him. Let him in peace. But you can plant a little seed. And this is, okay, I'm lucky because I read in a book. So I buy the book and then something might happen later. The one sows, another reaps. That's not important. So I would ask you, from the bottom of Father Zofroni's heart, and my heart also, to open up. And also I know how difficult it is for the Bulgarians in Switzerland and the Russians, not only in Russian language, but when we have guests or when you go out in the streets, get them, bring them, and show them what we have. I have been in the liturgy this morning. My dear friends, in this whole universe, in this whole planet, I have seen everything. Shame and fame, money and powerless, but the liturgy is unbeatable, number one. Even if the priest is celebrating the liturgy, I had that also recently with 150 miles an hour. You know, our Father goes 10 seconds. Even that doesn't make a difference. I heard very nice singing tonight. I was for a moment there. And the Serbs are not very good singers so far. Many times I saw that. When you have 5 people, you have 7 different voices with 5 people. It's cacophony. So, but then I went to Father Zacharias. Father Zacharias, the books are back there. He's spiritual father and friend now. He says, Klaus, we don't go to church for good singing. See, I constantly learn. We go to the church for Christ. And what I hear and to participate, to become prayer is almost impossible. One of the great fathers now, like Father Zacharias, is Father Raphael. He stayed with Father Zofroni as long as Father Zacharias almost. He's in Romania now. He said to me, Klaus, I'm trying to be a Christian since 50 years. I have not even begun to be a Christian. Imagine. That's a very, very powerful spiritual father. And he says that. I have not even begun to be a Christian. And I think I would like to make that the point also through my story. My story is not so important. What is really important is that we go out tonight here from this door and you can take something back home. Mother Teresa told me when I met her, I would like that everybody who comes to me goes away from me richer. And that marked my brain and my heart. So I would love so much that everybody who is here tonight goes through this door richer than he came in. If you don't take something with you, then either I'm zero. I have, by the way, a t-shirt in Greek. It says tipota, means zero. Or you are not ready to accept maybe some things. I will talk about some points about now. Because if I compare the other Christian denominations like Catholicism, Lutheranism and also, I would say they have their religion is gold-plated. It shines nicely from outside, but inside it's just cheap metal. Whereas we have the pure gold. There is not very far from here a gold mine. So we, Orthodox, we have the pure gold. Not the people, I'm not a good Orthodox. Who's Father Sophroni was a good Orthodox. But I asked him, Father Sophroni said after one evening, normally he came to my room. I did not go to see him for 20 minutes. He came an hour and a half, 2 hours to stay with me in my room. And one day I asked him, Father Sophroni, are you a sinner? He said, Klaus, I'm the worst of all sinners. I said, Father Sophroni, you're a saint. He said, I'm the greatest sinner. I said, what do you mean? He said, no, he said, okay, one is more sinner than me, St. Paul, the Apostle Paul. He says, I'm the chief of all sinners. That's written in the Bible. So, but how can you, what do you mean you're a sinner? What do you mean when you're a sinner? It took me some time to understand that, of course. Because when we know that we are part of this fallen world, and we accept like Christ, he made himself a sinner for our sinfulness. See, and we pray like St. Silouan for the whole world, for the misery of the whole world. So we take apart on us like that. We are not actually sinning like that. That we are somehow, in a way, all sinners. And all these exchanges with Father Sophroni, and then happened some miracles, again, through Father Sophroni's prayers in my life. By the way, concerning this book, the book has its blessing. When I started to write it, he was love incarnate. Father Sophroni was love incarnate. And I wanted to see, can a human like me reach such a state? But I didn't ask too many questions. I said, just go ahead. Just go ahead. And why did I go ahead? Why don't I do like being hot or cold, lukewarm? So the first part of my life was ice cold. I was dangerous. I could kill people, not with a knife or a gun, because I would end up in prison, but I could kill souls. And can that be changed in something opposite? 2 million kilometers in search of the truth. By the way, as I am German, I wrote this book in German, and Pope in Rome, Pope Benedict, he is German, I mean he lives still. When he read the story, he was sending me a message and asking me forgiveness in person, a personal message from the Pope. He was touched very much by the book himself. I'll tell you why later. Next photo. That's another book, will be soon printed by Mount Tabor also, Gods, Idols, Gurus, where I go into depth what is Kundalini Yoga, what is yoga, what is Islam. I will give it a short, but it would take too long, of course, so that book will come. Now, and this is something I will, if I don't forget, this is here, you can see the original, this is a CD, I have made 3 albums. My mother was an opera singer, my father, will come, so I have a certain musical, that was my mother, heritage, so I do compose songs. Continue, next one, my mother again and again. Yeah, she was very famous. She was as famous that Hitler came to see her. She was not a politic, of course. She was an artist. Continue. Yeah. So that's, I think, Hitler is on the right side down when she was singing in the opera. And after the war, of course, she lost. It's my father, I think. Yes. Continue. Yeah, he was a conductor, but he was a monument of ego. I didn't have a father in my life. He was divorced quite young already. And I think he was simply a monster. I mean, he was nice, but I didn't have any nice from my father because I didn't have a father at all. So, and continue. And you can see the swastika on my birth certificate when I was born in May 1945. And I didn't see the light of the world. I saw the destruction of the world because the Russian army, I'm welcoming the Russians now, invaded Germany. And I just told the story before. When they invaded Germany via Berlin, the Germans fled to the south, and on fleeing I was born and should die from hunger immediately, from machine guns immediately. So 25 times I should be killed, but you will understand why I survived, and I will tell you why it's by the Mother of God. Will come more after that. Okay, so that's where I was growing up in this way. Now, the story I made, when I was at the time, 90s, it was still Leningrad, St. Petersburg was still Leningrad. I stayed with a friend, and he was born when the Germans came to encircling Leningrad, and the people were fleeing, and they were dying in thousands. Like in Germany, in my kids, we were dying in thousands. And he was born and should die from hunger. Just the same story like me, but me with the Russian, he with the Germans. And we embraced each other and we said, we will never, never make war. Not you and me, not the Germans and the Russians. Yeah. So an amazing story. So that is my way how I was born. Continue, please. Yeah, that was our house. My mother had several houses. They were all bombed. And I think in that moment, probably she was looking for help because she couldn't sing anymore. The operas were all bombed. And I think that time she must have made a step to the demonic powers. And artists are all a bit crazy, isn't it? Even I'm an artist and a bit crazy, I think. So, but she went on the wrong way. And that means when she go away from the God of love, you lose life. You lose love. That is the point, and that's where my hell started. Okay, next one. So, in my youth, I was just suffering because I never had a mother. I never felt arms to embrace me or a kiss. It was just when my mother looked at me, it was simply hell. Daggers came out of the eyes and not love. And I revolted against. And revolt, beaten. And my mother had like this metal stick for the fire and was beating me with metal sticks until I was covered with blood sometimes. She lost totally control, and so I just was scared of this woman all my life until I became Christian. Then I could love. But until this point it was just hell. Continue. Yes, all pictures, very just lonely, lonely, lonely. That's when I learned to go to myself in this chapel to be attracted by the negative powers, by demons also. As 6-year-old already, I was. The Bible says something like that. If we go astray from the God of love, it's in the Deuteronomy, in the first books of Moses, I will revenge that to the 3rd and 4th generation. I have learned later that my grandmother also has been in contact with spiritism and spirits like that. So I was just the next one. I was attracted by it. To survive, yes, can I stay with this picture? Of course, that music started very early. In the time of the Beatles, I founded a rock band in Germany. Was quite successful, and then started a life of sexuality. In the end, for looking for love, of course. But sex is not love. So, because at that time, my mother has given me away. We had gangs, where also war between gangs and blood was flowing. And so the police caught me. I was in front of I was young, still 12 years, 15 years, 17 years. And so it became dangerous. I became really dangerous, and nobody could touch me because nobody gave me love. They all wanted to educate me. Why? Try to educate me. Yeah, I'll pay you back because I was beaten all the time. So that was my way to music, to have a little success or something. So my mother has given me away to a Roman Catholic priest. This Catholic priest, of course, had also these negative powers, and he was homosexual, and he took away my free will by the power of these spirits, and he raped me for 7 years every night. Now you can imagine, my mother went to communion every day, took the hostie, the Catholic hostie every day, and was trying to kill. She opened the gas to kill me once even, she told me. I think the Germans were quite good in gassing, so she tried that also, God knows. So it was just hell, and then I went from one hell to the other hell to this priest. And that lasted 7 years. And in these 7 years, I think I survived only by revenge. By hatred and revenge, born to hate. I knew I will, well, if they had given me love, I'd give love. But I gave them just back what they gave me. That's very simple. It's not so complicated. I will destroy them all. I'm too young yet. I have no experience whatsoever, but I will find ways to kill all these people in their soul, what they have done with me. Okay, next one. It didn't look very good. Okay. When I came out from the house of this priest, because he found a new boy, I went to university in Germany, and that was the time, 67, you know, when the hippie revolution started all over, in America and in Germany, in Europe, all over. And so the hair went down, as you can see, but I was lonely again. But I joined movements, radical movements, but the fight with the police wasn't so nice, and violence is somehow not my way. And I dropped out and I said, let me find a way. How can I escape suffering? How can I escape this loneliness, this terrible suffering? And continue. Look at, not very happy. One more. Yeah, that was taken Yes, looks a bit better, huh? Yeah, oh, he was quite good looking at that time, huh? So, continue. So I met this girl. Her name is Ursula. Ursula, I was DJ in a most famous disc jockey, and she came as a servant in this nightclub. And she was student, I was still student or half student, God knows. I mean, and she had something which other girls didn't have. I think she was heaven sent, but heaven sent to me is not so good. So I managed to hurt her so much that she took 40 sleeping pills. 20 are deadly. She took 40. She swallowed 40 because she wanted to live with me, but it was impossible to live with me. And I wanted just to see how it is when somebody dies. And I let her, because she vomited and she was suffocating. And that was the state of mind in which I lived, you can imagine. So, I don't know, an inner voice somehow told me, take the phone and call the Red Cross. And I went to see another girlfriend in the south of France. And she survived. And later she became for some time my wife. But because I felt she has something. But what she had I didn't know, because language of love I didn't understand. So now she is a sister, Orthodox sister with Father Sophroni also. You know, so lucky that she survived, because in the end she introduced me to Father Sophroni. As I say, heaven sent. Next photo. Yeah, so that was the hippie time, of course, in Hamburg in the end of 60s. And she told me, next photo, I don't know what's come. Okay, leave it like that for the moment. She told me, Klaus, I see. You can resolve your problem, go to a psychoanalyst, or make a therapy or something. And as she was nice, I said, okay, let me try it. But I knew I was profoundly bad. And in psychology may be like medicine, can help to a certain level. But the psychologist could not take away my guilt. And I knew that guy has lots of explanation, no mother, no father, whatever. I didn't want explanations, I needed help, and the guy didn't help me, so I gave up. Then she said again, Ursula, you can find something in philosophy. And both, we went to university, and we were reading Socrates and Plato and up to Heidegger, whatever, and Nietzsche, you might have heard of Nietzsche. And then one day I found something very strange about the philosophers. I think I must look up in Wikipedia or in internet. I think 90% of the philosophers committed suicide at the end of their lives. We know of church fathers, some have been philosophers. And when they found Christ, they found the answer. But in philosophy, it's human, it stays human. And Father Sophroni was very clear about when he speaks about human science, because you will see later, I consider even today, Zen Buddhism or Buddhism the highest human philosophy. But it's all human. Look, Father Sophroni spoke of sorry, I must take the microphone here, about a pyramid. He said the worldly pyramid is like this, all values go up, everybody wants to be Obama, everybody wants to be on top, in the bank, in the school, whatever. Father Sophroni said, Christ turned it over, he took the upside down. I think a human cannot even have such an idea, the last will be the first. It's rubbish. The last will be the first. I am the first. The last will be the first. So you can see, such ideas, for me, a human didn't have it. Neither Confucius, nor Lao Tse, nor Buddha, nobody. All the philosophers. So, such crazy ideas, and it's amazing. They work, and we have it. And we don't practice it. Because one day I went in the toilet in Hamburg, and there was written on the wall, you know, in the toilets are all this funny stuff, was written Nietzsche's main sentence, God is dead, in brackets underneath, Nietzsche. Okay, so, I don't know, some weeks later I went to the same toilet, and somebody has crossed it out, and was written underneath, Nietzsche is dead, in brackets, God. So, and that somehow symbolized the limits of philosophy, and I gave up. And instead of that, I started traveling. First of all, I've met Muslim families in Hamburg, guest workers from Turkey who live in Germany, and they were nice people. Let me see what Islam is. And so I gave up on my studies. I said, what's the use? I don't want to make career. I don't need money. Okay, money, we need a little bit. I was quite good as a hippie to steal and cheat. And but I want to know, why am I here? Why is this eternal suffering and loneliness? It was so strong. You might know him from the time, an American group, Grateful Dead. Mm-hmm. And so when they played in Hamburg, I was backstage with them. And I entered in the world of drugs, you see, just to get some fun for 6 years. And that killed me twice, almost, by the grace of God. They found me and they pumped my stomach empty. And there came a moment I just could not go on. This horrible, I think loneliness is hell. If you have cancer, if you have no matter what sickness, if people surround you who have love, you can even die because you know love is something there. But loneliness is hell. And I wanted to commit suicide. I wanted to jump down from the 4th floor on the concrete backyard in the house where I lived in Hamburg. And it is 3 steps to the balcony door. And I was just absolutely lonely, alone, and ready to jump. In that very moment, when I was ready to go, someone was standing behind my right shoulder. And loud voice, "You are not alone." So much consolation in that voice. I think it must have been Christ, I don't know. I didn't jump, because it was really hot. A fraction of a second before I would be dead. And in that moment, I started to write songs. And the song is here. I'll play you that song now, because they organized the guitar. It's the strangest guitar I've ever seen, because the chords are very strange, but they work. So the song is called You Never Can Lose Your Love. How can I write this, never having had love? But with this voice, who's there, you're not alone. I knew we are created. I say that now, I didn't know that. But we are created in the image and likeness of God. God is love. So it must be somewhere in me. But where? I don't know. So I'll sing you a song now. Doesn't matter. You do what we had. You thought you lost your love, and you would never find the end. You tried to read a book with too many pages. You think you'll never find the end, and now you start others, but there is no helping hand. Now you're trying and you think this is the end.
You tried one way and another, and you're complaining without end. You tried to turn the inside out and the upside down to be too perfect in the end. And now you're balanced on the middle of the road, and you wish you hadn't gone so far. See how your very own hands try to suffocate your are you going? That makes you stand up from your crutch. Hear my boy, how the wind is blowing. And you realize you thought too much, but now you know your heart is growing. And you never can lose your love. You never, ever can lose you.
Okay, let me see what Islam is, not in Hamburg, but what Islam is in Arab countries. Morocco, Israel, Iran, most of the time in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and then I started to discover something strange. Because in the Western world, even here, I think the Muslims, they are quite moderate very often. They want to have peace, they want to have a normal life. But in these countries, wow. I thought that, first of all, it's a copy of the Old Testament somehow. I mean, I didn't like Jewish because it was too close to Christianity, but I knew about that. And I thought, wait, they just copy what was written in the Old Testament, but perverted to the opposite. Takes parts of the New Testament, but perverted. If Christ says, love your enemy, Muhammad says, kill your enemy. And it is written in the Quran where it is written. In the other book, I cite all these things. I compare it straight away. And so, Allah is not a father. You could not reach Allah. He was behind the moon somewhere. Unreachable for a human being. And he was somehow, I don't know, ice cold. There was no relationship possible to Allah. And Muhammad was a killer somehow. So I said, what is it all about? It's, in the end, it's just a law, it's a legalism, which, okay, Christ said, I'm not here to abolish the law. The law protects the people, but to fulfill the law, which is love. Because when you steal in Arab countries, not the first time, but I was a professional thief, because I had to survive very often, they cut your hand. And you lie, and I had all the time to lie. Since I'm born, I had to lie. They cut your tongue. So I was scared they make minced meat out of me. In the end, you see, I didn't feel so very well. I said, with this law, the law kills instead of helping me. That's why Christ, I don't abolish the law, fulfill the law. Because if you have love, you don't steal, you don't lie. But it wasn't there. So I had to give up. This was violence, which I don't talk about the fanatics now. I just talk about normal, what's in the Quran, you see. Sharia. And it was unacceptable, so I went on. And for the next 7 years, I lived in Hinduism, hopefully to find the truth and the sense of life and the power also, but also the love in Hinduism. Now we have about 33 million gods. Somebody calculated as gods, how goddesses, half gods, whatever. Now you go on, as my main center was in Calcutta, and but I traveled 40,000 kilometers or 30,000 miles through India, from the Himalayas down to south, to all the great gurus. No more sect stuff. I have been also with sect stuff, but I wanted to see what is the teaching of Hinduism. And lots of Hindu teaching makes sense. I think it is a religion. Everybody is created in the image and likeness of God. So they also long, where is God? Like the old Chinese, Confucius or Lao Tse, you know, and Buddha and Zhao's there in Persia. It's in us, the image and likeness. There is a dynamic, it longs for it. But that's why Christ revealed himself to have a model. but at that time they didn't have it in Hinduism. So they created lots of human gods, but they didn't create it actually. That's what I found out. I didn't find it in the first days, but after 7 years, that when Christ said, I saw Satan falling out of heaven like lightning, all the legions of demons followed him because they wanted it by pride. And this is the trick what Hinduism does with the believers now in America, in Western Europe, in yoga. My dear friends, I can tell you what's happened really in yoga. Question and answers maybe at the end. If you want to know that it is religion and not exercises, guaranteed not. And I can explain why and how it works. So then make yourself God. And that was what Satan wanted to do. Lucifer wanted to be God. In a certain, very subtle way. You don't see that. But so when I was going deeper and deeper in meditations in Hinduism, I found true parallels. As we have Adam and Christ, we have in the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the so-called, I don't think it's holy, but they call it holy scriptures. I think it's just Hindu scripture. They have Arjuna, Adam, and Krishna, Christ. So I was following this line, among other lines also, and at a certain moment I found that Krishna says to Arjuna, I am come to destroy the sinners. Puff. Minced meat again. Destroy. Christ did not come to destroy the sinners. He came to love the sinners because love changes a soul and a heart. See? It's human thinking again. And another human thinking which I think is horrible to this day in Hinduism. The legalized injustice is the teaching of karma. Because they say you must be reborn and reborn and reborn. Our religion, Christian teaching is linear. You go, you come, you're born, you go through a line or over a bridge, and during our lifetime we must decide yes Christ or no Christ. I like it in the Orthodox cross of Father Sophrony, the Russian. Do you know why the bar is oblique down? Because it's the good thief and the bad thief. So that's the decision we have to make, of course. And here they say it's not a linear, but it's like a hamster in a wheel. 8,400,000 times you must be reborn. And then you might reach that point which is called non-being. Our fathers, when they celebrate liturgy, they say, God, we thank you that you brought us from non-being into being. And they go all the way around. They go back in non-being, like a drop of water. Like a drop of water dissolved in the cosmos, in the ocean, in the non-being. And there's no personal God. There's nothing anymore. So to whom you want to talk? So we have statues of stone and wood, but there are energies, and they go into us and they make us gods. And I didn't realize it only when I was a Christian. I could compare what is going on really, and how much the peoples in esoteric movements in Western Europe and America are seduced, because in the end it's always I am God. This is the idea, and I think that started in the hippie revolution in the 60s, when the people dropped out in California, especially where it all started, you see, to replace God with myself, myself and Mr. Me. That's what's important. And church don't want anymore. All these things. So I was just shocked when I saw, I want to be, I don't want to not be, to avoid suffering. It doesn't make sense for me, because I wasn't. And when we see the icons of Christ, is there any here? Well, that's a very important point today. Do we have an icon of Christ somewhere? Yeah, well, you look up in the church.
The Last Supper.
Yes. No, it's not it's a Western style one. Yeah, I call it kitsch, but it's not kitsch, because even St. Seraphim had one which would be kitsch, but it's not kitsch. It's our heart which makes it, of course, not a style. But if you see, he has in his halo 3 letters, O, O, N. O is the, on is like ontology, on is life. So the being. So that's life, of course. We will come back to that point again tonight, because it's very, very important, which we don't realize sometimes. What that's meaning? So here I just saw we are no being, non-being, to return in non-being. And that shocked, I destroy sinners. And luckily at that time, God sent me, because no. I had found, after 7 years, in Hinduism, the powers I was seeking to seduce people and to kill their souls. I could make myself invisible. These energies came into me through meditation. I could make myself invisible. I could read the thoughts of the people. I could make astral trips, Moon, Mars, and it was reality. I mean, you would have seen sitting me on the floor, but I know my soul or whatever, another light body was there. And this is an experience. I was a medium. I could hear voices from dead gurus and from other people who have died, and audible voices. So with these energies, I could enter through people, through the eyes normally, and go into them and take their soul and bring them to the sects, to the gurus. That's what I'm calling killing people, and to destroy them. Because that was loveless. It was a question of power, of sex or money all the time. There are some gurus, they are honest, but not many. I think also they might be in heaven. I'm not God, but I think they were just serious, but not many. But the bigger part were just ego monuments of satanic, in a satanic hidden form. Very famous one, even today now, Sai Baba and such persons. Anyway, in these powers, I have quit my body on astral trips almost regularly. And one day was in, oh yeah, we could take some photos again. Yeah, that was in India, by the way. I was also buying music. I was learning sitar. And that is a temple, maybe, I must see myself. In Calcutta, there was one temple, a very strange temple, a rat temple, where the people kneel down to rats and adore them as reborn saints. Next photo. You see, when they give them cream and milk and the best food. Next one. Very strange, you see. And they think they are saints. I mean, then you start to think about, does it make sense if I'm reborn as a rat? In order to be a saint? Next photo. And in front of the temple you could see people dying, kids dying, and the rats were fed. These sort of questions come up, of course, sometime. No, next picture. So this is the Kali temple. It's the only temple in India. There are not many where they do blood sacrifices to Kali. Because Kali is the most, I think, brutal you can imagine. When you remember the youngest, in the 80s, 90s, hard, heavy metal music, you know, the faces, red eyes, vampire teeth, blood drifting out of the mouth, and such. She looks like that. You will see. Next photo. So yeah, there was blood sacrifice, and I was sitting in the blood sometimes, quitting my body, and then I knew, yeah, look at, she has this, with the skulls around, because she cuts head of whatever she sees. Even Hindu gods are scared and afraid of her. Next one. Again, next one. Kali is just horror pure. And I looked like her after some time. When you do that for long enough, you know, it goes into you. So it was not nice when you have met me at that time. And next one. Okay, and next, and that's, stop here. And in that moment, when I came back into my body, I knew that I would not be afraid of anybody anymore. When you, as a kid, rejected, you want to be powerful, to protect yourself in the end, not to be hurt anymore. So I reached that point, and then in this power which I had was one last enemy, death. Now I must kill death. See, I'm God. That's in Hindu, in yoga even. And it's unbelievable. After question and answers, I want to kill death. Then I'm God. Nobody can do anything to me. Where do I find death? In this building. It's just next, attached to the Kali temple. It's a house of the dying of Mother Teresa. So I was ready to stand up. And the famous question, which we all should ask ourselves very often, Father Sophroni ever mentioned, and Father Zacharias in his book, the mindfulness of death, is very, very precious. People don't like that in general because we don't want to live. We don't understand that we must die before we die. Then we don't die when we die. See? So I was ready. The question, Klaus, are you ready to die? In case death is stronger than you. So that wasn't a game. That was something very, very... I was ready. Yes, I must do this fight. I walked into that room, next photo, and big surprise. Because I thought people, when they are dying, death is an energy, of course. I will attack this energy. It's a spiritual fight. It's not a physical fight, of course. And entering that room was peace, something I've never known. It was palpable, peaceful there inside. What is that? I thought people would, just scream or shout or something. It was so peaceful. And then came to my mind, gosh, maybe Mother Teresa, because she's got the Nobel Prize of Peace in this year, maybe she's a guru or something. Let me try if she can tell me something. So instead, the death was forgotten. Above, just see maybe peace. And what is she? Next photo. So in this building, they told me you can meet her. It's quite close in Calcutta where I lived. Next photo. And I entered that room and big frustration. I thought Mother Teresa is like a guru, with garlands and incense sticks, and everybody bows down to her. Who is she? I've never seen a picture of her. So I was going on the back side left, up left, you can see is the back door. I was standing there. And as they were Catholics, of course, that's not my wavelength. I was just said, I don't go in, but I don't go out. I want to see who she is. And so then came this priest, you see the altar, and he started a Catholic Mass. And then this elderly lady was standing next to me, one of these sisters, and gave me a prayer book. And when I opened this prayer book, there was something about love. And I started to weep, to cry. I could not stop as long as that Mass lasted 45 minutes. I stood there. You have all cried, I suppose, in your life. Then your throat, it hurts. You cannot speak anymore. My big mouth was shut, and I went back home, and I could not even ask a question because I was so from crying. I said, this is it. I cannot accept that. I will meditate during the day. I go the next morning. The first morning they told me you must go at 5 o'clock because otherwise they go to work. I was at 4:30. I said I'll get them before they start their prayers. At 4:30 I was there. It was exactly the same picture. They were praying already. I said okay. I wait, but this time I'm not going to cry anymore. Basta. I was standing there in meditation. That old lady came, gave me her book. No crying today. And she gave me the book and I started crying. Half an hour longer I was crying. But this time I get almost headache from crying. And I couldn't speak again. I gave the lady the book back and went home. I said, what is that? But that's a power which is stronger than mine. It's not death, but something is stronger than me. I cannot have that. I must vanquish that. What is it? I went back home, meditating, preparing. Next morning, I was 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, I get them before they start their stupid prayers. Not stupid, but I hope for me. At 4 o'clock, I was there, entered the door, same picture again. Gosh, what is that? When do they get up? And they were praying. The old lady came, gave me the book. 2 hours crying. 2 hours crying without break. And then the old lady must have had pity with me. Next photo. So then when I gave the book, she looked at me. And it was her, but I didn't know that she was it because I didn't know what she looked like. So when I wanted to give the book back to her, she didn't take the book. She grabbed my wrists. She said, my wrists, and just looked in my eyes, exactly like that. And she had seen me 3 days crying next to her. And then she said, okay, what's your name and so on. What are you doing in Calcutta? I said, I'm searching the truth. I want to be a guru. I'm searching the truth. It sounds nice, right? And suddenly she liked me now. She started laughing like she had never had bullshit like that. She just stopped and embraced me. Klaus, she said, you must not come to Calcutta to search the truth. You cannot find the truth in New York or in Tokyo or in Calcutta, she said. And then tapped on my heart, on my breast. She said, Klaus, inside you is the truth. And I said, yeah, come on, what is the truth then? She laughed again, said, Klaus, again, rubbish what you say. It's the wrong question. What is the truth? Who is the truth? You asked the wrong question. Who is the truth? I said, what do you mean? Yeah, And so, okay, as I told you, I tried to convert her to Hinduism. We met for some weeks every morning, and but I felt that lady had love. That lady was my first mother, and actually she liked me, like Father Zafroni, a little bit. We had a very good relation, and so she talked about Christ. I don't like men in the church. They are all bad. Then when I left, she said, Klaus, okay, you know, try with the Mother of God. And that's what I mentioned in the beginning of the talk. Maybe the Mother of God, she can intercede for you. And she took my hand, and now you can look in your hand. She said, in every human hand is an M. In every human, there's no hand without M. Every hand has an M. Yeah, here, you see? There's no hand without M. It's not hand reading, of course. But she said, Mary, Mother of God, M, she will intercede for you. When you suffer again, and she knew I would suffer, open your hand, M, she will intercede for you. And isn't it amazing? Because later, Father Zafroni, I survived altogether 25 times death. And Father Zafroni confirmed that by the prayer of the Mother of God, she loves you, you survived 25 times death. And it would be getting worse and worse now. And the Mother of God by her prayers. So maybe it's a help for you also. This morning I met the abbot of Hilandar in Mount Athos, and I said, when you have problems with your monks in Hilandar, young monks, sometimes difficult, open their hand, show them the M. He was very happy for that. It was very funny. So I didn't do it, of course, but I left, next photo, Calcutta, and went up to the Tibet in 1978, I think. This is the first time. It was not easy, but you could reach these places up there because there was no tourism, there was military control. I entered the Buddhist monastery. But, no tourism, I can tell you, the food, and the temperature, just like the heat today here, but when they have minus 50 centigrade, I don't know, let's say 120 or what, no, whatever is centigrade, I don't know, it was ice cold, you know, for 5 months. I said, you must be born here. Otherwise I will die. I will die. And I got next photo with this master. This master was supposed to have been reached nirvana. And it was the most ascetic period in all my life. That Ajahn Chah was his name, master over 400 monks, 10 different monasteries, supposed to have reached nirvana, and in the jungle with highly poisonous snakes, no protection, and by God's grace I survived even such things, physical, not only spiritual, scorpions, and no electricity, no running water, 95% humidity in the air, and, well, like today or even worse, but humid. You see, well, close yourself for 1 year in a sauna, you will know how you feel. So in this monastery, 1 meal a day in the morning, only short meal, and otherwise no talking, no reading, nothing, just meditating to reach nirvana. So this was very, very hard life. Because Ajahn Chah said, if you manage for 6 minutes not to think, you reach nirvana. Because now we come close to orthodoxy already. One of the fathers in Serbia, Otac Tadej, said a wonderful sentence. Our happiness or our unhappiness is determined by our thoughts, not by Obama or any other people or yoga or whatever. Our happiness, our unhappiness is determined by our thoughts. So now, when you hear that sentence, it sounds easy, isn't it? But to become like that, it will take you years of practice. That's what I mean when we must become prayer. So we don't see side prayers in the church or in the liturgy, or the morning prayers or the evening prayers, what the church gives us. They are so rich from our fathers. And as long as we cite them, it's nothing wrong. But we must go deeper and deeper and become like Christ. The Word became flesh. So we must learn that our words, our prayers become flesh in us also. So our happiness, our unhappiness is determined by our thoughts. It's theory. It's very true, but try and you will see. So that was the problem, of course, of Buddha. He said, where is evil coming from? Where is suffering coming from? Buddha's, one of his main sentences was, life is suffering, suffering is life. You see, it's not very positive. So, and he said, as this comes through our thoughts, which is perfectly all right, so we must have, what? Control of thoughts, or what? What can we do? Father Sophroni later explained this also. And now listen very carefully. I said, I want to give you something which we can take back home tonight, because here everything starts here. Father Sophroni said we have several layers of layers of thoughts, stages. So the first stage is that you get an image, or a thought and an image comes up. And let me give an example. Overeating. You eat and eat and eat and eat. I think sometimes when Yahweh gave Moses the 10 Commandments, if I would have been there, he suggested to Yahweh 11th commandment, don't eat too much. Would be good for some people. Anyway, so that's example. The thought comes, a piece of cake or whatever, pornographic film for man, or just let me take that for the food. Image comes. There's no sin in it, thought or image. Second second stage would be, we see the thought. Normally we don't see what's going on in our brain. We go blind through our lives normally. That's the problem. That's where suffering starts. Second is we see the thought. It's without sin. We see the piece of cake. Okay? Third, we accept the thought, and that's where sin enters in our life. And what is sin? Sin is, of course, not a moral thing, what the Catholics wanted to teach me. When you don't go to church on Sunday, you end up in hell. That's what they were telling me. So it's not moral teaching, because like in Islam also, it's also a moral teaching. No. Sin is a crime against the love of the Father. For God is love. So it's a crime, egoism. That's in the end, that's sin, of course. And in the end, it's self-destruction. And God loves His creation, so He wants that we turn around, repent, of course. So we accept the thought, sin comes. Fourth, we act, we do it, we eat the piece. Fifth, we do it again and again and again and again and again and again, and that's what we call passions. We are hooked. And I think everyone from us has somewhere hidden passions. Because we're so blind, we justify ourselves, we don't see what's going on in our lives, and then we wonder why we get sick, why we are psychological problems in the end, because we are blind. So this is very important. So Buddha's answer to this is, of course, if it comes through 5 doors of perception, it says Buddha, seeing, smelling, tasting, listening, and touching. So the 5 doors, senses. So let's close the senses. Says our fathers also, hesychasm. What is hesychas teaching? What is watchfulness? What is silence? Silence is not to go to a room where you close the door, to keep these thoughts, to keep the silence. That is where we close the doors of our soul for the Jesus prayer. That's where it starts in the end. Okay, Buddha said, don't think. Is suffering starts through the thoughts. Don't think. Now you try not to think. You can try. Day and night. Day and night. You cannot stop it. All the fathers say the same. Buddha says, okay. Then we had in this monastery, we had the next picture maybe. So we were practicing in the central temple, 3 o'clock in the morning. But then up from 9 o'clock when we had the breakfast and then no more food, we went back in the forest, and everyone had in the forest, this was under my wooden kuti, it was called, the cell, on pillars, because below it was full of snakes and dangerous stuff. Many snakes like that, vipers. And so we had technique 1, to control the airstream from the nose to the lungs. But when you fall asleep sometime, then we did what we call walking meditation. We put a glass of especially when we were in the temple through the whole night sometimes, on the head, and walking back and forth in the temple. And so as soon as a thought comes, you concentrate always, not it breaks down or something like that. And the other one was, the third, we had 3 techniques. This was the mantra meditation. Let's say the word Buddha, for example. So you would sit 24 hours a day, Buddha, 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 Coca-Cola, Buddha, 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 Buddha. You see, as soon as a thought comes, you go back to the technique. And Ajahn Chah said, 6 minutes, you don't think you'll reach nirvana. As it was a question of life and death for me, I reached the point of nirvana. And then came the horrible, great revelation to me. Because we are created in the image and likeness of Christ, of God. So we are created, what is God? God is love. You don't need love when you're the only person. If paradise would be all alone in Adam, in paradise, what's the love for? Eve came. So we can love each other. And that's, in the liturgy we hear it so often, let us commend each other into Christ our lives and so on. Simply nobody does it. With words, yes, and we must become with these things. You see, then the change takes place in our lives when Christ comes. So this is what I found in Buddhism. We are concentrated on ourselves. It's ego-centered. The center is I. When you listen to the nice words of Dalai Lama or people like these, they sound nice. Respect the environment, don't hurt anybody else, you see. First of all, they did not die like Christ for us. But there's just human philosophy. It makes sense, of course. But to reach that, you must die to yourself, to be not ego. And that's all the time you can see the limits then in the end, how it's not possible. It's just nice precepts somehow. And when I reached nirvana, this absolutely non-being was filled. The fullness, love is fullness. The emptiness is death. And the demons came. And now you can think Klaus Kenneth is crazy, he's stupid, he's whatever, or I saw demons with my biological eyes. They were like green smoke. They came through these wooden doors of the cell. They were in front of me in the night very often, and I was screaming, not loud, but innerlich, inside myself, because it was such a horror. And they didn't go away. If I had Christ, in the name of Christ, go, but I didn't have Christ, you see. So I don't know, by God's grace, they withdraw sometimes, but they came back and back. And this horror was so incredible that I had to give up Buddhism. Next photo. To live possessionlessness, like our monks in the monasteries. It's not poverty. In Catholicism, you must believe in poverty. It's not right, poverty. Not to be attached to possessions. They have it also. That's why I think Buddha had a good feeling for it. But he didn't know Christ. He lived 650 years before Christ. But he was trying his best, I think. He was really trying his best. Next one. Continue. Yes, that's Ursula. She also was in this monastery. Again, Ursula in the temple. Okay, that's it. No, you can. That was I quit the monastery, and I made a stop in Israel. That takes too long. That's the famous Golden Dome mosque where nobody can go in. Dome of the Rocks. I was sitting on this stone for 2 hours and I made myself invisible. I wanted to see what it is like. And I can 100% confirm this is a breeding place of hatred. This is a breeding place of hatred. And when I made myself invisible with machine guns, they menaced me, go out from here because you're not allowed to go there. Continue.